Hello and welcome. This is Mouse Gunner, and I'm joined by Rotype yet again, and we're back with some more Factorio. And we just started messing around with robots, and I have one of these, I believe it's called a RoboPort, in my pocket. And I had one question. So you were explaining the zones, but I noticed when I was moving my RoboPort around, there is a dashed yellow line that goes from one RoboPort to another as I am placing it.
Yes, so we kind of rushed the explanation of these zones at the end of last episode, but if you'll remember, the orange is the logistics range. So we haven't really talked about logistics chests yet, but they're just kind of anything logistics related is like giving or taking, from somewhere, from a box to a person or from a box to a different box, stuff like that. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But all of that operation has to be done in the orange zone. Now, if you put two roboports close enough that their orange zones, their logistics range connect, you get that dashed line. And that's just kind of an indicator to tell you these logistics zones are close enough that they connect and they then form one large logistics zone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of an extra. I mean, you can kind of see that the orange is kind of merging with the other orange, but it's also just a nice little way to make sure that they're connected.
Okay.
And so that way, like, for example, if I were to put a RoboPort over here near the belt kind of array, I didn't have the orange dashed or the dashed line, and the orange lines the orange spaces, I'm sorry, do not connect. So if I were to put a box over here full of, say, transport belt or something in this one, and then I were to run away into this zone and ask for it, they would not bring it to me because they would be looking, I'm standing in this orange zone. And so it would look in this orange zone and say, I don't see any transport belt. You can't have it. So you got to be a little careful. Sometimes you can accidentally not connect your RoboPort zones, and it won't find the stuff you want because it'll be in some isolated zone somewhere that you didn't actually mean to be isolated. So that's what the dashed line is.
Okay.
I'm going to put this one there so they are connected.
Okay. See that now. Now, another question I have. When you place these robots, did you assign them to a RoboPort? So, like, if I guess I'm going to have to grab some robots so I can actually...
Yeah, so their boxes here.
Okay.
We have a whole bunch of them, so you can just grab a whole stack.
So, when you're assigning robots, what do? You just take your stack and put it in the RoboPort? Like that?
That is one way to do it, yeah. So if you open up the RoboPort, you'll see there are slots for robots and there are slots for repair packs, and that's for them. One other thing I didn't mention about construction robots is they'll go around and repair stuff if there are repair packs. Okay. So you can put them directly in the RoboPort as if, it's an assembling machine and needs gears or whatever. Or what I tend to do, because I don't know, it's more fun, is if you take the stack of robots in your hand, you can just spam them out.
Okay.
And they'll just go. So when you put robots in a particular RoboPort, you're not necessarily assigning them to that RoboPort. You're just kind of assigning them to the space. Go find the nearest RoboPort network. So they'll balance themselves, maybe not perfectly, but they'll be in this network defined by these two RoboPorts that we have.
Okay, so that answered my question. I was curious of that. I wasn't sure if they were assigned to a specific thing. Then the next question we have is the robots are all standing around because they're all full on inventories. So what do we do to fix that?
Right. So on the bottom right, you'll see two different alerts, or I suppose 173 alerts. Mm-hmm. The first one on the left says 172 objects are missing construction robots. So if you look at the map or the mini map, you'll see this blinking stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's all centered on these trees, or most of them are centered on these trees. And that means this is a bunch of stuff, a bunch of commands that I gave, and there aren't enough robots to do these commands. Like I don't have enough robots to dismantle all of these trees. What that means is the robots will have to take turns, doing one task and then coming back and doing another. So it's not like an end of the world kind of thing, but it just means you commanded too much stuff. There's not enough robots to do all these things. So that's not really a big deal. The next one, the one with the little chest on it, I mean, it's kind of hard to see. It's pretty small, but the next alert that says not enough logistic network storage space available. So we told these construction robots to go cut down all these trees, and they've done as much as they can so far. They've cut down a bunch of trees. Now they need to put the wood somewhere from cutting down the trees. And we have not designated a storage container for them to put the wood. So that's why they're all just kind of hovering out there, like, okay, I got the wood, but I don't know where to go. Now these that are over here eventually ran out of power, so they came back to the RoboPort to charge. This is what they do when they charge. They kind of just hover over the corners, but they're still just sitting there because they don't have anywhere to put the wood. So to tell them where to put the wood, under the logistics tab of the crafting menu, you can see not the boxes on top, but the third row from the bottom, we have two boxes with little colors on them. There's a reddish colored one and a yellow one. The reddish one is a passive provider chest, which we will talk about later. The yellow one is a storage chest, which is what we need right now. So I just made a couple storage chests, and they're pretty easy, just a couple circuits and a steel chest. Eventually we'll automate these because we'll need a ton. And this is, I'll place them here, where the robots can put stuff. And that's pretty much it. The storage chest is a place for the robots to put stuff. So depending on what you're doing with your robot network, sometimes you'll need a ton of these. In my opinion, if you're using your robot network efficiently, you don't really need a bunch of extraneous storage chest. It's like a storage locker. Like if you're organized and use all the stuff in your house, do you really need a storage locker? That's the way I look at it. But it is useful for stuff like this wood. Like, I guess I'm never really going to use the wood, so I might as well just tell them to put it in this box.
I'm just doing something out of my own curiosity. I want to see if this does anything. Okay.
So that will not really do much. The robots don't interact with the steel chest. So that just kind of, technically what you're doing is removing items from the logistic network. So the logistics network is, not only is it the entire orange space of a RoboPort, that's kind of the physical space of the logistics network. If you hover your mouse over one of the storage chests on the right, you'll see logistics system storage, and you'll see 850 wood, 860 wood, increasing number of wood.
Mm-hmm.
So that will list all of the things in the logistics system. So usually when people are talking about the logistics system, they're not so much talking about the physical area defined by the orange squares. They're talking about what is in the logistics system. Because if it's not in the logistics system, my robots can't handle it. They don't know it exists. So they don't know to bring it to me or go put it in a box or whatever you're trying to tell them to do. So here you're just kind of taking things out of the logistics system, and there may or may not be reasons to do that depending on, what you're set up to do.
Okay, so I guess what I'm gathering you're saying, I'm trying to follow you, but I think what you're saying is you don't know where the robots are going to put things, so you can't guarantee where you can take them out from. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, that's also a good point. So if you have, let's just say, do I have any more? I'll pick up a storage chest and I'll put it over here next to this other RoboPort. And then with my deconstruction planner, I will tell them to deconstruct a bunch of trees. I think they're going to put them in this storage chest over here because it's the closest.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how they work. But you're right. In general, you can't always be sure where the robots are going to put stuff. I think they try to keep the same type of things together. So like if I took all this wood out and I put it in this supply chest over by the other RoboPort, so now the supply chest over there has a bunch of trees in it, and I still told them to cut down some trees over here. So this supply chest is the closest one. So by our previous logic, they would go here. But yeah, as I thought, you'll see they're going to go put it over there because they have decided that that's where the wood goes. They saw other wood over there, so they're going to go put all the wood together.
Okay. Most of it is just curiosity on, how you plan for what the robots are doing. Just my own
Right.
curious questions.
Yeah, it can get a little interesting. So then the next question, even that I don't know the answer to, is if this box fills the box over here fills up with wood. So this is like the wood storage area. If the wood storage area is full, then they need to go put it in another box. Will they choose a box over here? Like if I put a second box over here, would they fill up this box and then fill up this box? Or would they fill up the first box and then just go to the closest one, which might be this one over here? I don't know the answer to that. So the long story short is you can't always count on the robots putting things in the storage system in a way that you might expect. So you got to expect your stuff to be kind of in every storage box everywhere.
Okay.
What some people do about that is they just put all of their storage boxes in one big centralized location, and that's just storage. And that's one way to do it. But we kind of glossed over this. There's all of these trees. Imagine we're bringing the bus through, and this is like, oh my God, all these trees. Bam. Robots clear the trees. Now I don't have to chop. It's kind of amazing because everybody hates chopping trees. Once you get robots, you don't have to do it. So I just run around like dismantling trees.
Okay, so my next question then, because the robots will service any logistics area, if I drove down all the way down the rail track all the way over there, and I put a roboport there, and then I put a job for them to cut trees, would the robots from over here, if they didn't have anything else to do, go all the way over there?
No, not if they're not connected.
Okay.
So you can see the network. The construction zones can touch, and then the construction robots will mingle. They'll go find a task somewhere else. But at least to the extent that I understand it, if the construction zones touch, the construction robots will pass from one area to another, but the logistics robot will not. And obviously, if the logistics zones touch, you just turn it into one large logistics network. Okay. So if you wanted to put a roboport like all the way down at that uranium we found there, and you did not want to bring any robots with you, if you just put a roboport there, the only way for these robots that are currently next to us to get down there is either we take them or we string a robo network all the way down, putting roboports, let's just say, along the rail so they're connected all the way down. That would make an enormous robo network, and then they would share tasks all along the whole way. So that's pretty much the basics of how robots work. I guess what we haven't shown is the blueprinting now that we have robots. So I'm going to go grab a blueprint from, this will work, one of my blueprint library blueprints. And let's just see which one I want to. Actually, one of the most convenient ones to do is just a straight stretch of bus. So I have a blueprint here of just 4 lanes of conveyor belt, of transport belt. And I'm just going to say there. So this is the same as it was. We just placed the blueprint, and previously this hadn't done, this just sat there and it would be useful for us. Now you see we getting this blinking. It's complaining about material for construction. This is kind of the other error you'll get sometimes with the robo network, and it'll make that annoying beeping sound until you do something about it. So what they're complaining about now is you hover over the alert, and it says you're asking for 136 transport belts. And the robots are looking in that orange area for transport belt to fulfill this task, and they don't see any, because the transport belt is in a steel chest, wherever it is. Here it is. It's in a steel chest, which the robots don't look in the steel chest. So there are basically 2 options here. We can either, let's just see, so if you put a bunch of transport belt in a supply chest, they'll say, oh, I found some. The next thing you can do, and what people tend to do, is make that other chest next to the storage chest there the passive provider chest. So it takes the same requirements as a storage chest to build. There's just this different color. So I'll go ahead and put that on top of the steel chest here. So now the transport belt is going into this passive provider chest. So if you hover over either the passive provider chest or the storage chest, you'll see now logistics system storage, 2.4 thousand transport belt and 1.6 thousand wood. So now I can spam this blueprint I have for, let's see, find a convenient place to do it. I can just run this out, and as long as I don't use 2.4 thousand, the robots will have a grand old time just filling in my construction needs because now they have access to 2.4 thousand transport belt.
If
So
I do
usually the next
that,
thing you end up doing,
okay, they do take it up. Okay, I was curious
so
if
they'll take this up. The interesting thing, so the difference between a storage chest and a passive provider chest, if you follow these guys, they are all going to storage. So the robots are allowed to take from a passive provider chest, but they're not allowed to put in a passive provider chest. So if you
okay.
take stuff out with robots, you tell them to do something, they take it out, and then just like you did, you tell them to dismantle, they'll dismantle it, but then they'll go dump it in storage because they're not allowed to touch the passive provider chest, only to take out. They're not allowed to put in. So it can be a little more useful to organizing things for, let's just say, I mean, transfer belt's a good example where sometimes I want to come over and I want to pick it up manually, and sometimes I want the robots to use it. But when I pick it up manually, I just want transfer belt. I don't want all that other junk like wood or something else that they've been putting in there. I just want the stuff that I want in there. So that's why you get those different kinds of chests. So one of the next things that you'll do commonly is make a whole bunch of passive provider chests. And all of these, I mean, especially things like fast transport belt and splitters and underground belts and stuff, we'll just make all of these provider chests. That way the robots can have access to them and can build the bus with them. Or if I say I want some, they'll be able to go get some and bring them to me, stuff like that.
So how did you mark the trees for clearing? You used a blueprint?
No, so I believe we talked about this, but maybe I glossed over.
Oh, I got it.
There's the red square, the deconstruction planner. Yeah. So you can just go ahead and
I tried that on
all of these that we've marked.
Tried that on this. Is this not a rock? Oh, okay. I missed. The reason I was confused is I thought this was a rock, but it must be like some dead stump or something.
Oh. Yeah, it's a little sprite of some kind. But you'll also see if you have the deconstruction planner highlighted, it'll bring up the Robo Network kind of colors. So you'll see all of these trees are outside of the construction network. So we can highlight all these all we want, and they're not going to do anything because they're
Too far away.
Yep. So I think I have one more Robo port, so I can plop that there. And the funny thing is that extends the network even though it's not powered. So I've always thought that was kind of interesting, but just give it a little power. There we go. And now they'll go out and complain that we told them to do 367 tasks and we don't have 367 robots, but they'll get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, like I said before, one of the better ways to clear trees and rocks. So this rock again down here, it's out of the network. So, but this is a good example. You see, I got the little X on it because it's a rock that I could have mined personally, but instead of doing it, why do it personally if the robots can do it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm excited for the possibilities now because these robots, I've got a lot of ideas for them. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, I mean the robots are fantastic, and we haven't even gotten to the logistics robots, which are also fantastic. So once you get to robots, things really open up.
And they're kind of cool to look at too.
Oh yeah, and when you get thousands of them, I've had bases where there's of robots flying around and they just swarm everywhere. And these robots are slow. Like they're just kind of like plodding along. You can upgrade how fast they move. You can also upgrade how many things they can carry. So right now they carry, I don't know, I guess one, because our current research is cargo size 2. So right now they carry 1 unit, which as far as wood, I'm assuming that's just like 1 unit of wood, or maybe it's 1 tree. I don't know exactly how it works, but you can get them to carry all kinds of stuff, like many, a whole bunch of stuff, and all kinds of wonderful, wonderful upgrades. What is that? What is that saying? You know, you can blot out the sky, not with arrows, but in Factorio, you blot out the sky with robots. It's a thing. It can happen. Unfortunately, we're not making any more. Why is that? We don't have green circuits. What happened to our green circuits?
Did they get cut off?
It looks like we might. They either got cut off or we're not making any.
Okay.
It's always a disaster when you're not making any more robots.
Well, we were fixing the bus. It's possible you or I accidentally cut the line too. So
That's very true. I'm heading back to the source to see what the problem is.
well, I think we're going to go ahead and troubleshoot that off camera, as this is a good point to go ahead and put a cut in the video. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is Mouse Gunner and Rotype signing out.